The truth is when there's situations that either they're not showing up the way that we wanted them to, or there's just a lot of uncertainty or surprise. We've not experienced this before. Our midbrain goes to assume that it's dangerous until proven otherwise. So we have a tendency to write horror stories about things. So you didn't receive the job, or maybe they haven't even just followed up with you. You're not getting any responses. Your brain will want to go to, here's all the bad things. And I'll hear people go like, well, I prepare for the worst so I can be ready for the best. And I'm not discounting that there's a level of us needing to do that. That's our survival skills kicking in. It's a useful skill to have. But I challenge them to go, well, how much time and engagement have you really spent on preparing for the best? I find that it's almost negligent, that we don't really even spend any time on that, especially the older that we get, the more disappointment we've experienced, the more that we tend to stay to that horror story type of thing. So here's a couple of horror stories that I'll hear from people. It's a tough job market. So there's not a lot of job opportunities out there. It's a tough job market, but it's such a blanket statement. Especially when they don't know what industry that you're even working in, they don't know what your skill levels are, and you don't need 100 jobs. You're looking for one good job. Maybe you're looking for a couple, but ideally we're usually looking for one job that really fits for us. So one, they may be right. Maybe unemployment is up and the economy's struggling. That all may be actually happening. But if you're already aware of it, what help does it do you to focus on the fact that people are saying it's a tough job market? If you've not gone out and applied, if you've not gone out and had interviews, and I'll tell you what, I've been in a job market that people described as booming and that it was for the employee, and I struggled finding the work that I was looking for. So to me, calling out something as tough or easy, I just go, the job market is what it's going to be. I need to find the opportunity that's right for me. Another story that I hear is, I could never do that. So as soon as we say that, it's completely shutting it down. Now, I'm going to let you know, I will say, I could never be an ER doctor. And that's not because I think I lack capabilities, but I know that about myself, that I have no interest in it. I'd be not really that great in it. The sight of blood is something that definitely bothers me. I think that's a criteria for the job. But that's coming from a place of like, what's best for me, not I'm shorthanded on what my capabilities are. So watch the story. My story is, I have no interest in doing that. And I think you need a passion behind the work that you do to be really great at it. Someone else might say it's a tough market to get into, or a tough type of industry to get into. As a kid, I've always been a writer. And so my mother would always talk about, it's really hard to be a writer and it's hard to make a living. And so that stuck with me forever. In reality, I've been writing in all my jobs in some form or fashion. I'm a writer today. It doesn't necessarily, I don't know if she even knew what that could look like. But because she kind of came to it with, it's going to be hard, I adopted that for the longest time. And I didn't try things that now looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have just gave it a shot. Who knows what would have happened? The other thing is, you may not even realize that you're saying something like, who am I to do something like that? You're not even giving yourself permission, as if somehow you don't fit. And this is where we get the imposter syndrome type of stuff. As I mentioned before, I grew up poor, and I'm growing up in these kind of limited situations. So there was a bit of like, well, who am I to try something like that? I even grew up in a small town. And for those of you that are coming from small towns, it's common that because we're not constantly looking at all these buildings and businesses, that it's easy to feel like the world is small and there's not a lot out there. And the reality is there is. We just chose, or a family chose, to live in a smaller area. So you're not looking at it every day. I think with technology and the internet, we're starting to realize that the world is actually big and abundant.